Changes that lead to cognitive delay begin decades before the symptoms appear. So, today, Dr. Saunders is going to walk us through what exactly is happening inside our brains, what speeds up that decline. Some days I feel like it's faster than others. And most importantly, what you can start doing today to protect your memory and keep your mind sharp. I think that's a concern that many people have. But before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that the webinar that we have here is for educational purposes only, and it's not intended as medical advice. So please make sure you are consulting with your personal physician before you make any changes to your diet or exercise or your supplement routine. All right, so with that said, Dr. Saunders, let's start with the big picture. Most people think of dementia as something, it just happens. It happens to everybody as they get older. What do you say to that? True? Not
I
true?
tell them absolutely not. Don't even believe that. That is like we're told to believe, oh, we're supposed to decline as we age. Oh, I'm just getting old. Oh, I have arthritis. I'm getting old. Oh, I can't do what I used to do. I'm getting old. And I can't remember things. I'm getting old. There was this really funny meme that was on YouTube, or no, it was on Facebook. Years ago, I read it. It was more than it was 10 years ago. But it was really he's like the golden years. What are the golden years? I can't poop. I can't pee. I can't walk. I can't talk. I don't remember anything. It's like this long list of things because I'm getting old. No, that's not the reason. It's not because you're getting old. It's because you're not doing things. When people say, "Well, I quit doing that years ago," well, if you don't if you're not doing it, you're going to lose it.
Mhm.
Somebody who is an awesome piano player and they just can like play a Rachmaninoff piece like right off, just reading it straight off the music, and then they don't play for 20 years, they're going to go back and they're going to go, gosh, I used to be able to do this. So in my own case, I used to run. I would run half marathons, doing a 7.5 minute mile. This was in college, so it was, I was running. This is a pretty good clip. And so my wife, when my son ran a 10K, I'm like, 10K, that's easy. She goes, oh yeah, you can do that. And I'm like, well, of course I can. I used to do, half marathons. And she'd go, okay, try it. So I did, and I couldn't run a 10K. I could not even run a 10K. And I didn't even get halfway. I got a quarter of the way, and I was like, I gotta walk. I walked the rest of the way. It was horrible, and it was a big eye opener to me. Is like I have lost it.
Mhm.
And so what I've been doing since then is I started off just walking 5K and then jogging a 5K, and now I am doing a hit, the high intervals. So I'm sprinting and then walking and then sprinting and then walking. And had a friend of mine drove by during one of my sprints, and he's like, "Well, no wonder you can't get all the way around. You're running too fast. You should slow down a little bit." Uh, no, okay. So the idea is if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So
Mhm.
that's a big thing to think about, and that includes your muscles. It includes your brain. It includes any ability that you have. If you don't maintain that ability, then you are going to lose it.
Okay.
I see so many people in the comments who said Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia,
Mhm.
frontal temporal dementia. I mean, almost everybody's had someone. I've had my grandma on my mother's side had Parkinson's. My dad had Parkinson's. So what is actually going through the brain when this happens? Does it something that develops? Is it just switch on one day, or is it a much longer process? Walk me through what actually comprises the brain when dementia starts to happen, any form.
Okay, so the brain is the canary in the coal mine. They used to put a canary in a coal mine. If there's any toxic fumes that are coming up, the canary dies, then everybody has to get out of the coal mine because they didn't have any way of measuring other ways of measuring toxic fumes. Your brain is the most sensitive organ you have. So we have a blood-brain barrier, and that is that there's things circulating in your blood that cannot get through this barrier and get into your brain and cause a problem. But there are so many things that can get through that blood-brain barrier. Things that, like the toxins, BPA, and phthalates that are found in plastics, for example, they get right through the blood-brain barrier. Why? Because they're fat soluble. They get right through. So yes, it's a barrier, but not completely. So Parkinson's, for example, is a toxicity problem. It's always toxicity. So if you have Parkinson's disease, you are toxic. Now, the question is, what are you toxic on? Well, there's a whole bunch of possibilities. The biggest one being organophosphate poisoning. And they first noticed in people who were spraying fields with organophosphates. We have a lot of fields where I live around Santa Barbara. And you see the people spraying fields, and they're riding a tractor, and they've got these big things that are spraying the fields, and they're wearing a full-on suit from head to toe with a respirator on, and they are definitely not gonna breathe in that stuff and get toxic. Because that's one of the things that they found was organophosphates definitely cause Parkinson's disease. But it's not the only one. There's a whole bunch of toxins. You can get heavy metal poisoning and cause Parkinson's disease. I had a patient with an essential nutrient is manganese. You must have it or you'll die. But if you get too much, you get Parkinson's disease. So, there's this window of, okay, if you don't have enough, then your enzymes don't work. If you have too much, you get Parkinson's disease. So you can get toxic on things that are supplements, right? You can supplement manganese. So you have to be careful with Parkinson's is a different issue than like Alzheimer's. Um, and then there's frontotemporal dementia and there's other kinds of dementias too. Yeah.
All right, you've talked in the past about how the brain is largely made of fat, which I think surprises a lot of people. Can you explain why does the fat in the brain matter so much for brain health?
Okay, so here's a part of the issue that we're dealing with inflammation. Fat, if you just have stored fat, you produce more inflammatory mediators, you're going to cause inflammation. Your brain, though, is made up of like 60% fat. It's a lot of fat. And so, this rattling around in your head, if you've ever done like surgery on a brain, it's really interesting. It's kind of like a thick oatmeal. It's like there's no substance. There's hardly any substance to it at all. It's like you can just like muddle around in the brain and break it up, and there's no connective tissue holding things together. So it's really easy to push through it, and it's fat mostly. So the brain is made up of the fats that you're eating. It's not it You don't make all the fats in there. You're eating fats, and these fats are being used to make the membranes around the cells, and then the myelin sheath around the axons. All of this is happening with the fats that you're eating. And so if you're eating inflammatory fats, then you're going to get an inflamed brain. That's the way it works. So you need a omega-3 oil called DHA. That's an extremely important omega-3 oil. And if you don't have it, your brain will use omega-6, but you're going to get inflammation. You're going to get problems like multiple sclerosis, and these brain inflammatory conditions, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. You're going to get these degenerative brain problems if all you have is omega-6, seed oils, nut oils, bad oils. So you've got to get omega-3 oils. That's really important for your brain function.
So it's definitely the old saying of you are what you eat. So if you're eating that bad fat,
That's what you're made of. Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Okay, so where does when I hear of Alzheimer's, I hear, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, the amyloid plaques and the tau proteins. Where does that fall in reference to the fats that we eat? Are the plaques and the tau proteins causing dementia?
Yeah, you know what? That's what everybody thought for a long time. So the drug companies were working on things that would take out tau proteins or prevent them from being made, so that you wouldn't get that. And it turns out that decreasing tau proteins does not decrease the dementia. That's not the problem. That's a symptom or a sign of something that's there, because what's not happening is the brain is not cleaning out properly. So you asked about what do the fats have to do with that? If there's inflammation, uh, then because of that inflammation, you build up these neurofibrillary tangles and tau proteins, and they just increase in your brain. And so they collect there as an indicator that there's something wrong, that it's not cleaning out properly. And what's really interesting, the way you clean out your brain is sleep. If you get to bed at night, this is really weird. So this is just recently, like, I don't know, in the last 10 years. You think that oh, we know the anatomy of everything. We've known the anatomy for 50 years, that all these anatomists are doing dissections of humans, and but you got to think about they're doing dissections of dead humans, right? And then even like neurosurgeons that are working on the brain are working on, while they're awake or during the day. But there's something that happens at night that is very interesting and very important for the brain to clean out the tau proteins and clean out the neurofibrillary tangles and clean out the adenosine and all the stuff that builds up in there. And that is in between the cells, like there's no space normally, the cells kind of shrink down and the space opens up. And then the cerebral spinal fluid washes through there. It's like a pressure washing. It's like if you've ever had like this old paint and dirt on the side of your house, you get a pressure washer, and it's so um, it, it uh, it's it's so satisfying to get that dirt off the side, and it just cleans it off. It's like, wow, we did our swimming pool, emptied out the swimming pool, got the pressure washer, and got all the algae and stuff off the side.
Yuck.
It's just clean white pool that we're getting prepared for summer. And it's so satisfying. Well, guess what? Every night your brain gets to do that, like pressure wash all of that junk out of there. If you're not sleeping, if you're not going to bed early enough, it doesn't happen. If you're stressed, it doesn't happen. It's during the deep sleep, and a lot of people miss some of that deep sleep, and that's why they have a hard time waking up in the morning. I have to drink coffee, and coffee just blocks up all of those receptors that tell you that you haven't cleaned your brain out yet. And so and so you feel like, oh, like I'm okay because I've had my coffee. Well, what's really happened is you haven't cleaned your brain out. That's the problem. So anyway, it's really interesting.
I had heard a story about Margaret Thatcher that she only slept like 4 hours a night. And she was like, I have so much work to do. I'll sleep on the weekends. And she would maybe sleep like 8 hours or 9 hours on the weekend. And they said she developed dementia. And they said it's because she didn't sleep enough.
Huh. Yeah, well, that's possible.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
possible.
Interesting. Okay, so Burl had a question in the chat, and actually it was on my list as well. I've heard Alzheimer's called, or I'm sorry, I've heard Alzheimer's called type 3 diabetes. So is there a blood sugar connection here? Why is it called that? What's the connection?
That's a great question. Okay, so Alzheimer's is a very specific type of dementia. We can do scans now to say that's an Alzheimer's dementia of the Alzheimer's type. It used to be when I was in medical school that the only way to actually diagnose Alzheimer's type of dementia is with a biopsy.
Hmm.
And so if you didn't do a brain biopsy, you can't be sure what type of dementia it really was. It could have been Alzheimer's. It could have been uh, another type, whatever. So um, the I'm sorry, I'm blanking on your question.
You were going to tell us why Alzheimer's and why they call it
Type, type, type,
type
type two,
3.
type three, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Most dementia we have now, and it's not Alzheimer's. It's actually a different type of dementia. It's a metabolic dementia. So it's part of metabolic syndrome. And so very often people use the word Alzheimer's to indicate any kind of dementia. But that's not necessarily the case. There is actually a specific type that is Alzheimer's dementia. And so most of the dementias that we see today are metabolic dementias. So there was a book written by somebody at UCLA called The End of Alzheimer's. And he said, I went to a lecture of his and he said, I hated the title, but the publisher required it or they weren't going to sell the book. So, so he wrote The End of Alzheimer's. And what did he mean by that? Um, what he meant is all of these metabolic dementias, all the brain problems that we're seeing today are from metabolic problems. It's the metabolism. You're not getting enough glucose into the brain. And these people with high glucose levels and the blood and the glucose isn't getting into the brain, and you're going, what the heck? This person has blood sugars of, 200. Why can't he get it into the brain? Well, because of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance prevents the glucose from getting through the blood-brain barrier because it's not fat soluble. It's not going to get in there. It has to be actively transported in. And as you get insulin resistance, you have fewer transporters and they're not bringing sugar into your brain. So your brain is starving in a sea of sugar. It's like terrible. So he looked at these metabolic dementias and says, "Wow, we can fix that." And so by doing essentially like the diabetes solution kit, most of you know about that. That's part of the program. You do that, and a whole bunch of supplements to improve brain function, and getting fats essentially, so that you can get ketone bodies and use ketone bodies. Um, and then exercising the brain by doing puzzles and things like that. And then doing physical exercise and fixing your gut bacteria. So you have this whole program of things. It's all in the book about what needs to be done to reverse Alzheimer's. And it's not really Alzheimer's, it's dementia, reverse early dementia. So what he found when he did the studies was people get to a certain point and it's completely reversible. They can get back to normal. He had people that couldn't remember one woman, he says, couldn't remember her dog's name, and she went on the program. And she was completely reversed, went back to work, was able to function normally again. People who, had memory issues mostly, but dementia kinds of problems, were able to reverse it. But if you get past a certain point, then you can get a little better, but you're not going to get back to normal. So there is a point of no return, because the brain, even though it's somewhat plastic, if you lose neurons, they're gone. You don't get them back. And,
Hmm.
and if you do get a new neuron back, then you have to retrain it. So you have to start all over again and train that to function with the rest of your neurons. So it's something you don't want to wait for. You don't want to wait till someone has full on, can't remember their dog's name, can't remember their passwords, to get into their apps. And then say, oh, we better go on the Bredesen program, and it could be too late by then. Don't wait. Like Jody was saying, this starts way like years, 10 years, 20 years before. In
Hmm.
fact, in women are more likely to get Alzheimer's than men. And in women who have a predilection to Alzheimer's, they can see it in their 20s.
Oh boy.
They can test and see it when they're that young. So it's not
What
a
was the
minor.
name of the book again? I want to drop it in the chat.
It's called The End of Alzheimer's by Dale Bredesen.
Dale Bredesen with a B.
Yeah, yeah, Bredesen, all E's.
Okay.
And what
I
would
will
those
drop that in the chat.
oh, sorry, Jody. What would
That's
those
okay.
symptoms be of someone in the 20s who is developing Alzheimer's? Anything different than someone in their 50s or 60s who forgets their dog's name or
Or just like problems with learning things and naming things and but the way they look at it is they're using functional MRI scans or SPECT scans, and they can see the areas where there's less function, and it's typical of what they see in Alzheimer's, and they can already see it in their 20s.
Okay,
Okay.
what about stress? How does stress affect people, making them prone to have these problems, or does it affect the brain over time?
Okay, I gotta tell you, that's probably the best question ever because stress is okay. So if we think of all the other things, all the things we've been talking about, the food, diet, exercise, supplements, drugs, surgery, whatever, all that stuff, that amounts to about 20%. Uh, uh, well, unless you're actually toxic on, like with Parkinson's disease, that's a different issue. Then that's a full-on toxicity. But beyond that, most of what we see, like 80%, is having to do with stress. And I'm not talking about stress like um, eustress, it's called. Eustress is where it's good stress. That's like, I'm going out for a run and I'm going to stress the heck out of all my muscles. I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to stress my muscles so hard. Okay, that's good stress. That's called eustress. There's other things called distress. And distress is when you have stress that's doing damage. It makes you catabolic. You release the cortisol, the stress hormones. So, you can stress your body by fasting. But what does that do? It clears out the brain. It cleans it up and helps it function better. So that's stress. But the kinds of stress that predispose us or allow us to get Alzheimer's are the constant levels of stress that we have from being catabolic. So we're running all the time. We're not connecting with people. That is so huge. As more research is done, it's more and more and more important to have connections than just about anything else. If I saw this really cool meme of the um, guy that called himself the healthiest guy in the world. I forget his name. Anyway, he was on this YouTube channel, he's an influencer and all that. And he works out every day and sleeps 100% every single night and all that stuff. And his chances was, 80% chance of surviving to 100 or something like that. And then they show this random Italian grandpa drinking some wine, and he's going out, and uh, and his chances of living to 100 were like to 115 were like 90% or something like that. Um, Connecting with people is more important than all of the other things that we do. So that, that's the best stress reliever. But sleep is also an issue there. If you're not sleeping, you're going to be stressed. And so that's where the Margaret Thatcher thing comes in that they said. Those stressful things, um, we talk about the 610 reset. And going to stopping eating by 6, so you go to bed with an empty stomach at 10 o'clock at night. That's just a good way to get anabolic, to clean out your brain. It's really good. Whereas on the other side, if you're not going to bed early, if you're eating snacks at night, having your ice cream in front of the TV every night, those kind of things, that stresses you out. It's not a minor thing.
Very interesting. Okay. So, what about you talked about puzzles? What like mental exercises can we do? What are like just throw out some things that are really
Okay.
practical, easy to do, things that we can do.
Learn something. Learn something that you didn't know before. Take
Ooh,
piano lessons. Take flute lessons. uh,
a second
um,
language would be good.
learn a second language. That's a great way. In fact, learn a third language. And
Okay.
as you're learning languages, your brain is stretching and you are using it. And there was a really cool study done with in Germany with just six guys. And they did like high resolution MRI scans on their brain, and then they taught them how to juggle. And when they got really good at juggling, they did high resolution MRI scans on their brain, and they could see in exactly the parietal lobes and they could see the brain had enlarged, that it was physically bigger. They had a
That
bigger
is so
brain.
cool.
Yeah, just because they learned to juggle. Now, here's the kicker. For 6 months, they had three of them kept juggling, and the other three stopped. And
Mm.
then after 6 months, they did high resolution MRI scans in their brain, and the three that stopped lost it.
Oh
Ooh, all
no.
right. So you need to stay engaged.
Stay
It's not
engaged.
just fix it and be done.
Yeah,
Mm.
keep going. So it turns out that in Dr. Bredesen's program, as they're doing more research on like the puzzles and things, they're going, yeah, they're okay, but it's not as good as learning a language
Mm.
or learning a musical instrument.
Something
Uh,
new, something very
yeah,
new. And plus
yeah,
that takes muscle memory too, with your fingers and it's
right.
all different kinds. Okay.
Right,
Okay.
correct. So you're making a lot more connections in your brain by
Mhm.
learning something new than just doing a puzzle and learning that.
Okay.
Part of exposure to different things, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so if someone's already having a little brain fog, is it too late to start making changes? What would you tell them to make
No
it?
way. That's the point. That's the point. The point of this book, Dr. Bredesen's book, is if you've gone a little bit, you can get it all back. If you've gone too far, it doesn't come back. So don't wait. That's the point. So if you have a little brain fog, if your memory's going, gosh, man, I know this and I can't remember. Um, then that's a good time to start. You know what? I'm going to get that book and start working on it. Most of the people that I see, by the time they come to see me, they're in a situation where they could not read the book and follow instructions because their brain won't work well enough for them to actually do it. So they need somebody there to guide them through and put them through. And I have seen people come back and have normal function after that.
Incredible.
Okay, so we've talked about gut health is important, exercise, sleep, obviously mental activities for the brain. You mentioned diet with good like the omega 3s. Let's talk about the diet a little bit more. So we're cutting the carbs and the sugars. Like what would a good healthy plate look like? And then are there any other things that we should supplement that maybe we're not getting, in our regular diet?
Yeah. Okay. So, some of the most important things that were found is the copper to zinc ratio. If you have a roughly equivalent amount of copper and zinc, then the enzymes that repair your brain and your immune system are going to function well, and that's kind of an important number to have. Um, so I do that test and I look at people's copper and zinc, and most people are okay. I occasionally find someone. In fact, I had somebody with dementia. He'd lost a lot of function in his brain, and we found out that it was and he had tremors too, like a Parkinsonism kind of issues as well. And we found out that he was deficient in copper, so he had high zinc, low copper. And that can happen if you're taking zinc every day, because zinc will inhibit the absorption of copper. So people who are taking zinc pills, they get a lot of zinc and low copper, and then their ratio gets really off. And so that's something I've noticed. Another important thing for diet is the ability to get glucose into the brain. And so it's not a minor problem when somebody says, "Oh, you have a little bit of insulin resistance," and the doctor says, "Oh, we'll wait until it becomes like high blood sugar till you have diabetes, and then we'll start dealing with that." No, that's really important. If you have a little bit of insulin resistance, that means you have a little bit less glucose getting into your brain. And as you get more insulin resistance, you have less and less glucose getting into your brain. So it's really important that you get rid of that insulin resistance as much as possible. And the way to do that with the diet is look at the diabetes solution kit. That's the purpose of the diabetes solution kit. So you can start with that. It's a ketogenic diet. Why ketogenic? Well, you're generating ketones when you burn fat. And so all you're doing is training your body to burn fat, lowering the glucose so that you have good insulin sensitivity. And then the number of glucose transport proteins will increase. And that's been proven in studies. Another way to do that is fasting. As you fast, the insulin drops down. And when there's less insulin, the brain starts saying, "Hey, we need some more glucose." And it starts making more glucose transport proteins because the insulin is low.
What kind of
So,
fasting specifically?
that's a good question. Okay.
Yeah.
So it turns out that you have to get hypoglycemia. You have to get low blood sugar in order for that to happen. And what that means is you have to use up all your stored glucose. So a lot of people don't know this, but your liver and your muscles primarily and other cells in your body store sugar inside them. It's called glycogen. And you have about 1 or 2 days of sugar stored up.
Mm.
So if you're not fasting for more than 2 days, you don't use up all that glycogen and get the blood sugar down to get the start burning fat. And so you don't start burning fat as long as you're making any glycogen, as long as you have any glucose left, because you're stored it. It's stored, right? So people who do like intermittent fasting, where they're fasting for 12 hours or 18 hours, um, they're not using fat for energy. They have glucose, glycogen in the cell. They're using up glycogen, and then they start eating again. Whoop, then they bring it back up. And then they use up more glycogen, and then they start eating and bring it back up. And they never burn fat, so they never get into ketosis and they never get the ketones in their brain. So I think like the ideal way to do that is once a month, fast for 3 days, 72 hours. That's all. Almost everybody within 72 hours of just drinking water is going to use up all their glycogen, and they're going to switch to fat burning metabolism. And when the first time you do it, you're going to say, "Oh my gosh, it was so hard. I got weak and I got tired and I got a headache and all that stuff." Why? Hypoglycemia. You're getting low blood sugar. But that's what's required, and that's what they showed in the rats, that they had to have hypoglycemia for the blood-brain barrier to build up the level of glucose transport proteins.
Can you talk about the difference between the brain's need for blood glucose transport proteins versus fat? I hear you saying your brain needs both of them.
Okay, so your brain cells cannot burn fat for energy. And so that's a really interesting thing you think about. And everybody says, "Wow, the brain's mostly fat." Well, but that fat is not energy. It can't be used for energy. If it would, if your brain used fat for energy, it would just eat itself up, shrink it down to nothing. So what it does is it uses glucose for energy, and then it can also use ketones. So your liver can make fat into ketones, and those ketone bodies, they're called beta hydroxybutyrate, and there's three ketones. But the brain can use that for energy as well. So it doesn't but there are some areas of the brain they still require glucose. You can't get away with no glucose at all. You have to have sugar there. But the brain can mostly run on ketones. So that's where you're burning fat, but not fat from your brain. It has to be made into ketones in the liver, and then it can go cross the blood-brain barrier because ketones are fat soluble. So they go directly across the blood-brain barrier right into your brain. And your brain can use that for energy. So then that immediately gets the brain energy out.
It's very interesting. All right, so we have got some great questions in the chat that we need to get to. Before we do that, I did drop the link to the Diabetes Solution Kit as well as Omega. And we do like to offer our webinar viewers the discount code. If you use Saunders25, you will receive 25% off of an order. So those links are there. All right, so Lily wants to know any suggestions for short-term memory? Anything
Okay.
different than what you've talked about?
Okay. So short-term memory, and this is a different issue. It's not an Alzheimer's issue as well. In fact, people often come in and say, "Oh, I can't remember where I put the car keys," or I can't remember why I walked into the room. Those kind of short-term things. That's not Alzheimer's. That's not dementia. That is one of two things, either stress, and this is really interesting because the stress hormones actually block the short-term to long-term memory. So you don't get from short-term into long-term memory. Stress hormones do that. And for a very good reason. If someone has a terrible stressor, I had a patient that had a head-on collision. And he still, to this day, can't remember between the time he walked out of his house to go to get into his car. He kind of vaguely remembers going to his car, and then waking up in the hospital. Everything in between is gone. And think about the mercy of that, the grace of that. What a gift that is. That horrible head-on collision where he broke most of the bones in his body, went through all these surgeries, how much pain that was and how awful that would have been to have to remember that over and over for the rest of your life.
Yeah, the brain is like self-protecting there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the stress thing. If you're under stress, then you're going to have less short-term to long-term memory. You're just going to not remember why you did that. The other one is different, and that is attention. If you're focused on something else and you throw your car keys down and walk away, your brain does not remember that. You're filtering out everything except the thing you're focused on. So if you're not paying attention, you will forget. And so that's a different issue also. So if you're thinking about something else and then you have this thought, oh, I'm going to get up and go in and get something, but your mind is on something else and you're not paying attention, you get in the other room. Okay, why was I here? I forgot. That's an attention thing. That's not necessarily either stress or Alzheimer's. Yeah.
About being present in the
Yeah.
moment instead
Yeah.
of trying to be in two places at once.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to combine a comment with a question. Elaine says, I did a seminar on dementia and was told because I have diabetes, I would get Alzheimer's. I started eating avocado, eggs, and noticed the difference. And then Joyce asks, are walnuts and other nuts good? And the oils related to these nuts. So do avocado, eggs, and nuts have anything to do with helping your brain fight against diabetes, Alzheimer's?
Well, potentially it's kind of like if you take out things that are carbohydrates and you add in nuts and eggs and avocados, then you're going to have more fat to burn, so to speak, or less carbohydrates to burn. So it's not like an either or absolute number. It's your body generally will use about 60% of the energy is fat and 40% is carbohydrate. Okay, so that differential, if you decrease the fat, then you just have less energy. That's all. You don't like make up for it by burning more carbohydrates. That's not the way the system works. So so the cells that burn fat, if you start allowing them to burn fat, you'll get the more energy and things will function better. And as you're burning fat, you're going to make ketone bodies, and so all of this is like just normal functioning. And it's not, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's not that you have to have one or the other. It's the ratio between them. It's the amount of both of them that you're using all the time. So now you've gone off some carbs and you've added in some fats and you have more fat to burn. And then you're getting back your fat functioning and making ketones. People use keto sticks. I have this all the time. They they're doing the diabetes solution kit. I give them the book, and they're doing it, and they go, yeah, I'm in ketosis, and they've got, the urine dipstick is like in the pink. It's like, 20 or whatever, 10, 5, 10, 20. And I'm like, no, 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 that's not ketosis. That's where everybody is. Everybody's making ketones all the time, a little bit. If you're going to be in ketosis, it needs to be like in the 80 to 160 in the purple range on the urine dipsticks. Because we're always, burning some fat, burning some carbohydrates. So yes, the dietary changes can make a difference. Just those small changes can make a difference.
Okay. You talked earlier about how we kind of use Alzheimer's as a blanket statement when there's, really it's referring to one specific um, thing that's going on in your brain. So the real Alzheimer's, that one that is, diagnosed, is that hereditary? Is it genetic?
Good question. Yes and no.
Okay.
Well, if you have the gene, it's called ApoE4. If you have that particular enzyme, apolipoprotein E4, if you have that, then you are more likely to get Alzheimer's, and it's a significant increase in the amount. It doubles your risk, roughly. So yes, in a sense, it's genetic, but if you know what that gene does, that's really interesting. It regulates the fats, how the fats are used in your cells, and especially cholesterol, because cholesterol is an extremely important part of the nerve cells. And if you're not regulating that cholesterol, if you're not getting enough cholesterol into the cells, then you're more likely to get dementia. And so if you have that, and then they put you on medication to lower cholesterol, that could be a double whammy. That could be like part of the reason that we're seeing this terrible increase in Alzheimer's specifically.
Okay, I'm going to go to a diabetic question or a pre-diabetic. This anonymous attendee says, I am pre-diabetic. HbA1c, I don't know if that's HbA1c, 5.9. AM glucose 86 to 204, mostly low 90s. I have not been eating fruits, but my holistic eye doc recommended eating brightly colored fruits and veggies for my blurry vision, especially organic berries. I only eat half a cup with chia and flaxseed once a day. I was advised not to eat in isolation, but with protein food to prevent a rise in blood glucose. I've heard it said that fruit should be eaten with food. What is your opinion? Insulin levels, insulin level was normal. Cannot remember the level. I avoid sugar intake.
Yeah. Okay. It would be really helpful to know your insulin levels because you have to remember that normal is average and the average person is diabetic. So, so normal is diabetes in a lot of people. So the optimal level of fasting insulin should be around 5. So if it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there, that's fine. If it's over 10, it's definitely high, even though that's technically normal, because most people are insulin resistant and have high levels of insulin. But the hemoglobin A1C of 5.9 is great, but that's pre-diabetes. So that you should get down, and that would be really good if it's you want it to be around 5.0, 5.2, ideally. That's the perfect place. So, first thing to do is when they tell you about the fruits and vegetables, what they're talking about is you need those antioxidants. And so you can get all those antioxidants from vegetables that don't have sugar in them. Berries are generally fine, and the if you go in the diabetes solution kit and you look on the free foods are all those things that you can eat that have all of those antioxidants in them. And you could have, oh man, something like broccoli sprouts with sulforaphane. They're just wonderful for antioxidant potential. And they don't have any sugar at all. So they're not going to raise your blood sugar a bit. And then you can get cauliflower, spinach and kale and any leafy green vegetables are going to have a whole bunch of antioxidant potential. Asparagus is great. All of these they're on the list of free foods that you can eat as much as you want, and you don't have to limit those or even count the carbs in them. So that's the best way to look at it, is to say, what can I do to keep my blood sugar down and still get all those antioxidants that I need? And that's a good way to do it.
Okay. That's great advice there. All right. Rosalind said,
Mhm.
I had two experiences that scared me where I got in the car and I couldn't remember how to start it, or I didn't remember where I was going. I don't know if it was coming from some medication I was taking or what. What could have caused that?
Okay. Attention, stress. Okay. Yes, medication can do that. There's a lot of different medications that can cause lapses, memory lapses. It could be that your blood sugar dropped low. That's hypoglycemia, and you go, I don't know where I am. I don't know why I'm here. So, as far as what could have happened, a lot of things are possible. If it only happens once, then what are you going to do? You can't figure it out because you're never going to know. But if it's happening like frequently, continually, or increasing on an increasing basis, then you need to know why. That's really important.
How long should you stay on these diets and take supplements? So if you are already following the diabetes solution kit, you shouldn't get dementia.
Um, yeah, there's more things to dementia. Like we've talked about toxins of various kinds that can cause dementia. And so the metabolic, which is the biggest cause of dementia today. Yeah. If you're on the diabetes solution kit, you're getting ketogenic, you're going to get ketones into your brain. Your brain's going to get energy. You're not going to have insulin resistance, so your brain's going to get sugar. Yeah, that kind of thing is going to prevent you from getting that type of Alzheimer's or that type of dementia. Making sure you're asleep every night by 10 o'clock with an empty stomach is going to be another benefit for being anabolic and cleaning out your brain. And then getting enough antioxidants and nutrients that you need for your brain to function, B vitamins and stuff like that, will prevent other forms.
Okay. All right. So I have heard myself of doctors say that I don't know, in the past few years, that if you catch Alzheimer's early enough, there's some sort of, or maybe it's dementia, I'm not really sure which one they're talking about. There is some medication that you can take to slow it. And Judy was saying that when she cared for her mom with dementia, her doctors prescribed a couple drugs that were supposed to help, but they didn't do anything. She says she's sure that the doctors knew they wouldn't work, and why were they recommending drugs that they know won't work? Do you know of any um, legit, like, is there anything that stops or slows dementia or Alzheimer's, or is that wishful thinking?
It's wishful thinking. So
Okay.
what she said is exactly right. That's exactly right. Those medications don't work. So why do they prescribe them? Because that's the standard of care. They have to, even though they know they won't work. They have to prescribe them because the standard of care is doing whatever the drug company says that this is what everybody's supposed to do. If somebody doesn't do that, then they can get in trouble. So they go, well, this isn't going to work, but I have to give it to you, so take it. That kind of thing. Not only that, not only do they not work, they can cause more problems than they solve. So yeah, but it's up to you as an individual to look into it and say, yeah, the doctor recommended it, but I'm not going to take it because the doctor just recommended it because that's the standard of care.
Gotta love those drug companies.
Yeah, they're great. They
Yeah.
have good marketing programs. Man,
Yeah.
if you want to know how to market, you go to a drug company and find out about marketing. They really know it.
Mm. Okay, Judy Holly wants to know about when do you start counting down the 72 hours for your fasting right after you eat your last meal?
Yeah, that's what I do. Okay, so I eat Friday morning and then I don't eat again till Monday morning. And if it's exactly 70, that the point is not the exactly 72 hours. The point is that you're in keto for about a day. That's all. So your first 2 days you're going to use up all your stored glycogen. You're going to use up all that stored sugar. And then it's all gone. And so your body goes, oh, I'm going to have to switch to fat burning and switches to fat burning. And then you have one day in fat burning and that's it. So whether it's 74 hours or 71 hours doesn't really make that much difference.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got a great testimonial. Sib said that she was told by the doctor yesterday that I am no longer considered pre-diabetic. Oh, what a great feeling. Good job, Sib. Woohoo. I love to hear that. And then Christine has a question. Christine says, I have your heart health kit. My A1C is about 5.8 and my glucose snuck up over 100. My mom had Alzheimer's. I'm wondering if the diabetes book would serve me better. I do have high blood pressure, lipoprotein A, and gave in to take a baby dose of statin. Was wondering if the diabetes solution kit would be a better fit for me, plus help me to lose the weight I need to. I also have grave disease.
Okay, so 5.8 hemoglobin A1C is prediabetes. And when you have prediabetes and you have some insulin resistance, then the brain doesn't get enough glucose. And so the brain raises the blood pressure. Your blood pressure goes up because your brain isn't getting the energy it needs. And the only way it has of increasing energy is to increase blood flow. And the only way to increase blood flow is to raise the pressure so that the blood gets up to the brain more. So your pressure is likely to be high because of insulin resistance. And so the best thing you could do is the diabetes solution kit.
All right, I'm going to take a question from the chat. Elaine asks, please talk again about tremor and the connection to zinc and the other med.
Okay. Um, Tremor, there's essential tremor, and that is probably not related to the zinc copper ratio. And then there's a Parkinsonian kind of tremor, which is a tremor at rest. And that might be related to the copper to zinc ratio. So if you can be toxic on copper, and that can cause Parkinson's, or you can be low in copper, and that can cause neuropathy, which the nervous system doesn't work well, which can show up as a Parkinsonian kind of thing. So too much or too little could be a problem. And the tremor, there's various kinds. And it's probably, if it's like you're thinking of essential tremor, like someone who um, uh, they shake when they try to do something, when they move, they hold out their hand, they shake. Um, some people have an essential tremor, and that's a different kind of neuropathy than it's not a Parkinsonian Parkinsonism kind of problem.
All right. So the final question for right now. I know, and there's some great questions that we have not gotten to, so bring them back to us next week. Okay. So what's the single most encouraging piece of research that you've seen and about what we've discussed today about Alzheimer's and dementia? Is there anything that you can give us some hope with? Research based.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, the brain. Okay. So the research. I think the research that Dale Bredesen is doing. There's research that Dr. Walter Longo, USC, is doing that are very encouraging. You know, if you go to a medical doctor who is trained at a regular medical school, you know, I don't care where it is, Harvard or whatever, and and you ask them, and you have like early Alzheimer's, and they'll go, well, you know, you can try this medicine, it won't work, but you can try it anyway. And otherwise, there's nothing you can do about it. Or you can look outside of the medical community and look at people like Dr. Bredesen and Dr. Longo, as far as what could happen. So, one of the best books recently was actually a psychiatrist. His name is. Dang it, it's on the tip of my tongue. And he wrote a book called Brain Energy. Christopher Palmer. And the book's called Brain Energy. And it's a fairly recent book, but it goes through, at first he started with schizophrenia, and he goes, oh, if you put him on the diabetes solution kit, he used the same diet as we have, essentially. He didn't use the diabetes solution kit, but he should have. It would have worked. Um, uh, you put them on the diabetes sushi kit and they get better. And then people with bipolar disorder, they get better. And people with dementia, they get better. And so he's like going through all this, he's going, wow, like this whole problem, all these problems that we're seeing with the brain are energy problems. And so what have we been talking about here the whole time? How to get energy into your brain. So that's the one thing that I think is the most hopeful thing. You get energy into your brain, it's going to work.
That's really great to hear. All right. Cheryl, did you have any last questions for him before we let him go?
No, I just wanted to
Let me
say thank
go.
you.
Let me go.
And yes, Sib says great session. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Dr.
Saunders. Have a
Okay.
good
Bye.
week.
Okay. You too.
Wow, there was a lot covered today. Oh my goodness.
Sure.
I've been jotting, like taking notes and all of that. So, I am going to do a little bit of a recap in the email that I send out. I'll have some bullet points and I'll send it out with the replay, which will take you right to YouTube. And then I also include, once you get to YouTube, if you've missed any of these links, you're like, oh my word, I missed, the book or I don't know, whatever. I always put those in the description as well. You can also email us. Cheryl, will you share the email that you have that people could email with questions that we could get back to them with?
Yep. It's support@bartonpublishing.com.
Hmm? And then I know we had so many questions today, which was wonderful to see. I am starting something new. We'll see how it works, but I am in the Facebook group the day before the webinar. I'm putting a post out there, and in that thread, if you want to start asking questions, you can, and then we'll work them into our list here. So I don't want you to get frustrated. I'm trying, to give you as many options as you can to ask your questions because we sometimes don't get to all of them, but if you get them to me ahead of time, it's a much better chance of us getting them worked in. So I will drop the link to the community where that is at out on Facebook. And I have lots of names that I have added. I've written down everybody that said in the chat they wanted the replay link. So I will be sending that email out to you probably tomorrow because I need to get the summary and all of that together. And it should come from webinar@bartonpublishing.com. I believe that's the email address that it will come from. If it's not coming from there, it'll be from Jody@bartonpublishing.com. But one of those two is where it's going to come from. So keep an eye on that. And we will do all of this again next week. Cheryl, did you have any links you were dropping in the chat
Um,
today?
you know what? I had not prepared those in advance. I just wanted to talk to Don, though. He asked, what is the major difference between heart health, pollution? I think he meant solution kit. I thought that's funny. And the diabetes solution kit. So, as the name says, the diabetes solution kit is a diet to help get your blood sugar in check, your insulin resistance down. And the heart health solution kit is to develop a healthy heart. So the mechanisms are different, but they are related. So a lot of diabetics have heart issues. Not all heart issue patients have diabetes or insulin problems, but there is a different protocol for each. So if you have either or both of them, I would say start with the diabetes solution kit. That'll probably lead to a better heart. And then do the heart health solution kit. And then I was just going to say, if you are interested, Dr. Saunders has written articles about Alzheimer's on the Home Cures That Work website. If you go there, do a search, some of them will show up.
Okay.
And I just want to say, we say this every once in a while. If you have a testimonial, Sibs had a great testimonial today
Yes.
for A1Cs down. That's amazing. We would love to hear from you. It helps not just us, it helps others to find that it is possible. You are the ones doing the hard work. So I want to give you the credit, but it takes you sharing as well. So
Yeah.
please email us any testimonial at support@bartonpublishing.com.
Yep, absolutely. And I also saw that Sib had a webinar topic suggestion of hydration. I do know we talked about hydration one other time. So Sib, if we don't get to it right away, you can definitely go out to the YouTube channel and search for that. But that hydration is a great topic. So I will definitely add that to the list of upcoming topics.
There are so many people who want the replay of this
I
webinar.
know. I am like writing all these down. I'm going to save the chat. If I am hoping I don't miss anyone, but if I miss you, I will get you added next week. So this is going to be my great test week here. I've written it all down. So, and I do, most of you, I mean, I can see your email addresses from Zoom, so I can check those. So if for whatever reason something bounces back, if I've not written it down correctly or whatever, I'll check the Zoom for your or for your email address to make sure I'm getting it right. So, all right. Great webinar, great information today. Thanks everybody for being here. We look forward to seeing you next week, and we will be back here, same time, same place.
Yeah. Bye.